Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. In this video I will show you the best DS4Windows settings for Fortnite. Okay, so first of all, of course, make sure to perform the first installation process, installing all the drivers. In the device options, enable the support for your controller, basically all the mandatory stuff. And then in terms of the best settings, there are really a lot of things you can do here. So in general, it depends on your controller. So I'm using the DualSense controller, as you can see, with the Xbox profile. So I'm just going to run through the settings in here that you might want to fiddle with and mess around with. So in general, the first time you launch this application, you will need to perform a first setup. So you'll basically need to bind all of your keys into the corresponding buttons. So just basically on your controller, bind all of the keys to the corresponding keys right here in the interface. So X to X, square to square, etc. You can also edit these settings in any way you like. So for example, if Fortnite or any other game doesn't allow swapping buttons. So for example, if you want to swap bumpers and triggers, for example, so that you have easier time shooting, you can do that. So for example, if you want to swap R1 with R2 and L1 with L2, you basically go here on R1 button and you assign the right trigger, and for the trigger you assign the bumper, which is right here, right bumper, and do the same on the left side as well. And basically you can do anything you want. You can swap any buttons to any other buttons that you wish. And in terms of the settings of your sticks, I would recommend, of course, firstly looking at how much drift your controller has, if you have a lot of drift. So in my case, I am using DualSense 4 version 2 as my main controller, and the DualSense is just my testing controller that I'm not using anymore. It's got a terrible stick drift, so I'm not using it. So basically, you need to adjust your dead zones according to your actual sticks. So for example, the native settings in here are going to be different from those that I have in my app and that you see now. So for example, the default settings are going to be as follows. The dead zone is going to be, I'm not really sure how much, but the anti-dead zone is going to be set to 20. And basically the method to figure out if your controller is drifting or not, you go to the controller settings, and as you can see, my left stick is currently drifting. So if I move it around, and if I actually stop it right at the center, you see it's in the center now. But you can see also the right stick, you see this little blinking white square in here. This means that the stick is actually supposed to be in the center and it's actually drifting, right? So if I put it manually in the center like this, now it's in the center, but it's actually drifting, right? As you can see, I have a huge drift on the right and the left analog sticks. So basically what you need to do, you need to set your dead zone settings until you don't see this double square indicator. So you have to make sure that you have the most accurate dead zone so that it's sticking into the center, right? So you need to make sure that it's as close to the center like this as possible. And if you have something like this with this gray square in here, that means it's drifting, and you need to actually make your dead zone higher, right? So this is a very simple thing, and you just basically mess around with the settings until you get the dead zone that fits the most to your controller's sticks, and then you're done. Anti-dead zone setting, on the other hand, makes sure that you can set your dead zone to as little as possible. So as you can see, I have 35. So the higher you go from 20, this one's going to be 20 by default. So if you increase it, you actually decrease the dead zone of your stick even further. And if you have good sticks like I have in my case on my DualSense, on my DualShock 4, you can actually go very, very low, and you can make your controller sticks very responsive with as little dead zone as possible, which everyone should do if you know how to do it. I just explained how. And you will have a very responsive gameplay. And if you're playing on the controller, I would say it's mandatory to have your controller as responsive as possible and to have a dead zone as little as possible. It's going to basically make everything easier for you. Now, in terms of the everything else, output curves should be used. The output curve should be enhanced precision. So this one basically makes sure that your initial movement is slower. It's very good for aiming, so I would say this one's going to be the best one for shooter games and in general as well. On the right stick, as we scroll down, also set it to enhanced precision. As to everything else, I'm not really changing anything apart from if I use when I used my DualSense, I actually set my full click trigger effect, so that basically it has the low click on the trigger so that you don't have to press it all the way down, so it's easier for the shooter games. So I'm just going to demonstrate. So listen to this. As you can see, where there's this little graph in here where this button goes up, so as you can see, as I press it, it doesn't go all the way up, right? If I press it and it clicks like this, this means that it goes all the way down, but this basically makes sure the full click makes sure that you don't have to click your your trigger all the way down, and it's more comfortable for the shooter games. And L2 as well, you see, it goes to about, if I press it lightly, it's about 70%. This one is about 80%. If I press it all the way down, it clicks, and it's now 100%. So that's a handy feature if you want to make sure to make your triggers fast and responsive. And this is basically it, guys. Everything else, you should go to other and set the emulated controller to Xbox 360, because this controller driver has the most support for all of the games. There's also a DualShock 4, but this one is supported less. Sometimes it's buggy as well, so I don't recommend it. Also, if you would like, you can also use the gyroscope right over here. So you can set this gyroscope to be used as a mouse, for example, if you would like to do that. It's up to you. Also, the touchpad is available as well with different things. You can use a mouse as you can use your touchpad as a mouse, so that's handy if that's something you want to do. And in general, that's basically it. I've explained to you everything that you need to know. Thank you guys for watching this tutorial. For more tutorials like this, subscribe to our channel, and I'll see you in the next one.